Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. Now I'm going to be continuing my individual car reviews for all of the cars that came with update 1.27, which I believe should be the final update of 2022. So far we've reviewed the Ferrari VGT and the Toyota Celica rally car, an absolute legendary car returning to GT7. Up next though, I'm going to be reviewing something quite a bit different, the Bugatti Chiron. Now this is a bit of an extreme car and you don't want to miss the end part of this video. So if you do want to pick this car up, it's not cheap. It's around about 3 million credits. Yeah, it's bit of a strange one. When you kind of buy it, you kind of look at all the stats and stuff, you realize that the PP actually seems quite low, I'd say, for one of the fastest cars in the entire world. Yeah, it's just a bit of a expensive bit of pocket change, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's quite a high price. So no invitation though, which is quite nice. So let's get on to the lap. Now if you've never joined me for a individual car review, essentially what I will do in my more standard format, which this is going to be doing, is essentially take it round with no tuning, straight out the box around a hot lap around the Nordschleife. Little mistakes can be kept in, however big mistakes will cause me to, you know, really kind of restart the lap. But each car essentially just gets one chance at it, and then we kind of rank it on our lap time leaderboard to kind of see where it comes in its individual category and maybe overall if it's fast enough. Then after that we'll fully modify it, and again we won't put any tuning on it. I can't stress that enough because people always ask me for the tunes. I won't put any tuning into the car. I will just put as many upgrades on as possible, and we'll go for our modified lap time leaderboard. This kind of allows all the cars to have sort of an equal shot at it. So let's talk about the Bugatti Chiron itself. In all honesty, in its standard form, would I say it's worth anything close to that 3 million? Absolutely not. No way. It honestly feels like you're kind of just throwing a brick through the air and hoping for the best. It's very unstable. You know, it's very, very weighty. The brakes are the main downside for this car because you do hit those ridiculous speeds very, very fast. That, you know, as soon as you're trying to slow it down again, it just seems to take an absolute eternity. The brakes just do not seem to suit this car at all in its standard form, like I'm saying. So honestly, yes, you will absolutely launch yourself out of corners and you will hit some ridiculous speeds in absolutely no time. It is really actually impressive in that sense. It's probably one of the only cars where you really feel it launch, and I mean it does launch. Yeah. But getting it slowed back down again when you're kind of ready for the next corner is an absolute nightmare. In all honesty, it kind of suffers with what the Bugatti Veyron did. So it was one of the first ever cars I reviewed in this game. When I took it to the Nordschleife layout, obviously here in its standard form, whilst it was very, very quick and it accelerates very, very fast, you know, because it's kind of one long string of corners, it's one after the other, kind of broken up with some smaller straights and such. Yeah, as soon as you get into those more technical bits, the car's just an absolute nightmare. You feel like you're constantly trying to slow it down. You can't go full throttle, and that's another kind of downside of this car, is the downforce is just not there because you're hitting such high speed. You are constantly lifting off, where other cars with, you know, better downforce and better grip and such would just be able to kind of absolutely, you know, nail it flat out. So yeah, it does have that downside of just essentially being a bit of a brick. But I will give you a bit, you know, a bit of hope for this car. Once you upgrade it, yes, it completely changes the way this car is, which you'll kind of see in my modified lap time, like kind of lap, whatever you want to call it, a little bit later. So I'll explain things there. But when we're talking about the stock version, in all honesty, it's not overall one of the best cars at all. You know, this thing's supposed to be like a hypercar or whatever, and it is honestly easily beaten by the likes of the Pagani Huayra, the Porsche 918. Honestly, it's just not that great. It's not very usable, and it's very, very thirsty. That is another downside of this car. It's almost impossible to grind any money back with because it is so heavy. So you are essentially putting that 3 million out as kind of just an excuse to own the car. In all honesty, you're not going to be using it to earn its money back or anything like that. So if that's kind of your thing, it's going to be a massive downside in it. Like I said, it's not cheap. 3 million for this thing when it honestly gets beaten by the likes of the 918 and, you know, Vulcans and stuff. Overall, I just don't think it's that good of a standard car. That's not to say I don't like it, because once you put upgrades on this thing, it honestly completely changes the car. So I'm actually going to, start talking about it a bit earlier, because I feel like I'm just absolutely slating this car. So let's talk about the kind of modified version. You can throw a lot of that weight out of the way. So the kind of bargey feeling that this thing has, the feeling of throwing a brick through the air, does mostly go. When you put weight reduction on and all the upgrades, it does feel much more racy. However, it does become a lot more thirsty, even more so than the standard version. And in all honesty, that's where this car stands out. In my opinion, once you modify this thing, it becomes a whole different beast. The brakes do become better. It's obviously lighter, so it's taking less time to stop as well. You really do feel a difference with those upgrades, strapped on and ready to go. Throwing the weight out, putting some better tyres on it, all adds up to a much better experience, as well as if you kind of add some of the aero parts, while they do look really kind of out of place on this car, it really does help kind of suck the car to the ground and kind of reduce that need to sort of lift constantly through the corners. I did do an open sub lobby around Le Mans with this thing, and my god, was it the fastest thing on that track by a margin as well. People were running sort of McLaren P1 GTRs, all that kind of stuff, Enzo Ferraris and such, and this thing just made it look like they were stood still. When fully upgraded, this thing has the bonus of kind of making everything look like it's just stuck in time, whilst this thing absolutely smashes a ripple through through space and time. It's just absolutely crazy. So overall, yes, it is a very, very fast car, but if you want to get the most out of it, you are going to have to upgrade it. I do not recommend trying to get the most out of it while it's in its standard form. It honestly has too many drawbacks to really be that good of a car, or even that kind of showy offy. The main reason to use this car is just to show off its incredible speed, and in all honesty, you're gonna have to upgrade it to get the most out of it. I find that is the best way to enjoy this car by a long shot, by an absolute margin. I was really not impressed when I tried this thing as standard. I wasn't expecting too much, but it felt far too close to the Bugatti Veyron in the sense that it is a tank, so that was kind of a bit of a disappointment, but I was kind of expecting it anyway, so I wasn't overly kind of bothered. However, I am majorly happy to report that once you put them upgrades on, then I can see it justifying, with the speed, the kind of acceleration, the handling, all that stuff kind of put together kind of justifies that 3 million price point. But as a standard car in its stock form with nothing done to it, I can't really say it's worth the money then. However, like I said, look, this car is mainly there just to show off the pure speed of this thing. It is impressive. Look, that is not a downside. In all honesty, once this car kind of launches itself, it really does kind of bring that sense of speed over, and that is a massive plus point for this car. So, in all honesty, yes, it's okay at standard. It's not a very good kind of, I guess, race car, especially for the track, but in terms of its speed, it really is this. So that's the lap done. Let's check out the interior. Now, this is a plus point for me. I absolutely love the Bugatti interior. Whilst I'm not really a fan of the splashes of blue, it kind of makes sense with the kind of main colour of this car. But overall, the interior, it's classy, but it also looks very, very fast. It's really impressive. It's sort of such a quick car, but yet you're doing it in insane luxury, and I absolutely love that about the interior. So the interior to me is an absolute 10 out of 10. It's awesome. So let's go and have a look at our individual sector times. As you can see, overall we did it in a 7 minutes 11.663, which is nowhere near our top 20 time. But let's go and see how this car does in its individual category. Will it even make it in there? So as you can see, it does make it in its kind of 700 pp category, which this falls in just 20th place. It's slower than the 918 Spider and much slower than the likes of the Vulcan and the FXXK. However, when I did review that 918 Spider, it's when it kind of suffered from that glitch. I believe it was kind of the gearing glitch, and it was really kind of off. So I may have to re-review that at some point. But yeah, it is, in there just. But overall, not too bad of a lap, to be honest. Now let's talk about this thing. This is the car that I've been talking about, the fully upgraded Bugatti Veyron. This turns this car into an absolute hellish nightmare for anything else on the track with you. It is absolutely crazy. Like I said, I took this down in an open lobby at Le Mans, down the main straight, no chicanes, and it absolutely blew away everything else. It is just such an incredible piece of machinery, and it really does kind of show off those plus sides to the Bugatti Chiron as soon as you kind of jump in and just absolutely launch it out a corner. So let's take it around a modified lap time, and let's see how it does. Will that kind of extra weight and stuff, stop the car getting, top, or will it actually just go straight to the top by a margin? Now, I believe the fastest car that we do have on the top is still the Z Performance from, quite a while back. I believe that's hitting a 1:05. So it'll be interesting to see just how close the Bugatti Chiron and that Nissan really are when it comes to being, well, fully upgraded. I mean, that Z Performance was no slouch. That's why it's remained up there for so long. So let's see if this big old Bugatti can beat it. As you can see, just from looking at the gameplay, the car's become, much more kind of racy and much more stable. Hitting the corners, you don't have to constantly brake and lift. You can really just absolutely launch this thing into oblivion. And in all honesty, the replay angles don't really do it justice. Just how fast this thing is out of the corners. That's kind of the main plus side. It's very quick, and then it will launch you well into the 200-mile-an-hour barrier. Talking nearly 300 miles per hour at some point. So it's really impressive, and there it goes across the line. So let's check out those individual sectors. So as you can see, there's my individual sectors. We did it in a 1:01 1:895, which has absolutely smashed the modified lap time leaderboard. Top time. Z is finally getting knocked off. As you can see, that did it in a 1:06.216. The Bugatti comes along fully upgraded and absolutely destroys that after just over 4 months of being on top with a 1:01.895, which is going to be an absolute hard thing to beat. That's incredible. I just didn't expect it to be that quick, but in all honesty, those upgrades really do work to help this car out, and it reaches some ridiculous speeds. It's incredible. So there we have it. That is my Bugatti Chiron review. So what do I think overall about this car? As a standard stock car, no. Don't even think about using it. It's probably one of the weaker, kind of more expensive cars in the game. But throw those upgrades on, get yourself a decent setup going, and all honesty, this car will impress you. It's an absolute rocket ship. Even it kind of through the corners, out the corners, and in a straight line. Once upgraded, it's a whole new level with this Bugatti. So yes, it does take my buy it now seal of approval. So that's going to be it for today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. My Twitter, Discord and donation links are down in the description down below if you want to help the channel out. And I will see you all later on. Have a great day, guys. Take care. Peace.